There's always been something cinematic about the ache inside the story of Frankenstein, that blend of awe and rot. Clearly, that's what attracted Guillermo del Toro to the property. His cinematic worlds, from Pan's Labyrinth to Crimson Peak, bleed sympathy for the monstrous, turning horror into heartbreak the way The Shape of Water turned loneliness into devotion. That same empathy can be found in films like Edward Scissorhands or TV shows like Penny Dreadful. Stories in which the monster is not the threat, it's a mirror on us. So for a filmmaker like Del Toro, that kind of storyline is the one that creeps into his notebooks, a misunderstood creature still waiting for someone to love it properly. But long before the elevated horror crowd started waxing poetic about empathy and trauma, another vision of Frankenstein crawled out of the grave, half camp, half corruption, and entirely off its rocker. Paul Morrissey's Flesh for Frankenstein didn't whisper about sorrow. It screamed through a haze of pop art decadence, sex, and aristocratic decay. Imagine Hammer horror spliced with A Clockwork Orange, then pushed through the sleaze filter of Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's where this thing lives. It's Frankenstein stripped of remorse and dipped in irony, a fever dream where art meets exploitation and science becomes sin. In the early 1970s, the cultural electric hum of Andy Warhol's factory and its fringe cinema was still buzzing with collapse and excess. Into that realm stepped Paul Morrissey, the director previously known for gritty contemporaries like Flesh and Trash. With Flesh for Frankenstein, Morrissey reappropriates the Shelley myth not as melancholic romantic tragedy, but as a cynic's cabaret of body horror and cultural rot. Warhol's involvement? Minimal. According to sources, the Warhol tag was largely a branding gambit. Warhol dropped by, lent his logo, and walked away. Morrissey ran the set, scripted the madness, and stitched together the monstrosity in Italy with an Italian crew. The result is a Frankenstein story that wants less to mourn the monster and more to measure how far the monster might go, how roomy the body can become for society's neuroses, how far the aristocrat can stray from science to vengeance, how the myth of life-making can turn into a spectacle of control, sex, and decay. Morrissey's twist is wild on the page. Baron von Frankenstein is married to his sister, and together, they're obsessed with creating a perfect Serbian race from stitched body parts. Bodies arrive in crates, organs launch toward the camera in 3D. Status, bloodline, sexual repression, and violence swirl like a toxic cocktail. The film embraces aristocratic rot with the same relish as poor bourgeois guilt. In one scene, it's not the monster's longing for humanity that resonates, but the aristocrat's longing for perfection and the twisted ideas that to make life is to master flesh, not heal it. The Frankenstein myth becomes an elite joke about bodies owned, manipulated, and disposed. This is where Del Toro's sensibility would diverge. His monsters weep, they ache, they carry hope or heartbreak. Morrissey's monster laughs or sputters in agony, sure, but the laughs are inside the torture, the horror is the joke. Yet the sensibility is connected. Both filmmakers sense the monster as an extension of creator guilt, of human failure, of unsated longing. They just arrive at opposite ends of that spectrum. Here's the rub. Flesh for Frankenstein isn't polite. It doesn't wrap the creature in tragedy and tears. It forces you to feel weird in your seat. The Baron doesn't chant, "I want to love my monster." He snarls, "To know death, Otto, you have to fuck life in a thing gallbladder." The film is deliciously grotesque. It turns the myth into a carnival of decomposition and desire, aristocrat style. And still, if you squint, you see the same impulse Del Toro carries, a fascination with creation and destruction, a sense that the monster is us, that the experiment on flesh is an experiment on the soul. Morrissey just cuts out the sentimental soundtrack and replaces it with industrial laughter. Thinking now about how a Del Toro version might feel: lush, mythic, romantic, tragic. Meanwhile, Morrissey's is cold, synthetic, perverse, and hilarious. Two Frankenstein visions, chasing the same ghost in divergent ways. In the end, if you love the idea of Frankenstein as broken-hearted birth and creature longing, Del Toro is the call. But if you want a Frankenstein that laughs in the darkness, that slurps up aristocratic guilt and hurls organs at the camera, then Morrissey's Flesh for Frankenstein is the weird, chaotic precursor you need.